you so much for, I know you have a ton to do. You still run your practice. You have three children in a wide age range, and you are assisting a lot of families during this time. So thank you so much for taking time and joining us here.
Well, thank you, Marnoush, for having me. I think it's a very important topic. A lot of parents are kind of stuck in what to do.
Obviously, this is, kids understand something is going on. Kids understand there is something different happening. Kids understand that there's a problem. But a lot of times with younger kids, it's how do you go about even explaining this to them and you know, helping them understand what is happening around them. And also, are there signs, are there things that you can see in kids that might indicate that they're going through stressful situations but perhaps can't communicate it? Because we have a lot of people that are saying like their children wake up in the middle of the night or starting to sleepwalk, obviously will throw a tantrum, or just, you know, be upset about things that would never upset them before. So I know I threw 10 at you, but take them as you like.
Okay, well, first, those are very good questions, especially with younger kids, because they likely don't have the verbal abilities to actually express what they're feeling. Signs to look for that a child might be in distress, a younger child, would be things like excessive crying. For younger children, tantrums can be typical, but if you see an excess or an increase in intensity, and like you said, smaller triggers are happening, excessive sadness, they just kind of seem down, or maybe the other way, being highly anxious and actually not even allowing the parent to leave the room. Um, it changes in appetite, even things like overeating. You know, is it emotional? Is it out of boredom? Problems with attention, a lot of acting out, being aggressive, a lot of body pain. So a lot of young children, because those verbal skills aren't there to say things like, you know, I'm feeling very scared, I don't know what's happening, I miss my friends. It'll be things like my stomach hurts, my head hurts, those types of things. So I think that those are some signs to watch for. In terms of younger children and what are some tips that you can have, is, you know, see, first of all, if you can gauge where they're at and actually what they know. So you want to use age appropriate language, right? So I wouldn't be using words like pandemic, right, with a 3 or 4 year old.
Yeah.
I would
See, that's
say, you
why
know,
it's a good thing Khale and Ame right here isn't having that conversation, because I wouldn't have known where to start and what. I would have
right,
definitely said, do you understand what the COVID pandemic is?
exactly. So in our house, for my youngest, we use the term sickness. So it's, what do you think is going on with this sickness? And see what they think.
Okay.
So that, so you can gauge where your child's at to kind of help guide your questions and what you say. Don't be overly technical or give too much detail. And don't offer information about stuff they're not asking.
Okay.
So a younger child, if they're not asking you why the grocery stores are open versus, I don't know, the mall or whatever it is, you don't need to go there. Just answer the questions they may have. The other thing is, if they express anxiety or sadness, I know as parents and as people that love their nephews and nieces and that kind of thing, we want them to feel better. So this sometimes leads to saying things, don't worry, you don't need to worry about it, let the adults worry. But we want to acknowledge what they're feeling. It's okay to be upset. We as adults don't know what's going on, and
Right,
it's
absolutely.
anxiety provoking. We can barely make sense of it. So it's, of course it's upsetting. Of course you miss your friends. Hopefully things will go back to normal soon and we can see your friends. Scheduling FaceTime with peers if your child goes to preschool, that
And
can
how do
be
you like
helpful.
explain that to, I mean, is it because I know obviously it's at the range. Some kids are just so used to FaceTime because they are now are raised in an environment where that's just one of the ways that they communicate with people who live farther away or with whatever. So, but because that's the other thing is like, I mean, I as an adult miss that human touch interaction, hugs, you know, just seeing my friend, hugging my friends, like, you know, it's you kind of forget the importance of that. And and I can't help but to see, and I kind of see it in observing my my own nephew. It's things that you see in them that they're becoming now, you know, very just even with their own within their own, you know, safe zone, very kind of still standoff. Like, how do you even begin to explain that aspect of it, of like the distancing and that you can't be so close to each other, you can't go run and give your cousin a hug, or you know they had a social distance, like, you know, Easter egg hunt where kids that would always play together, so you can't get close to your nephew, you can't get, I mean, to your cousin and stuff like that. Like, how do
Right.
you?
The thing with that is, again, gauging where your child's at. And also, you can explain that most of the time, you know, the children that do get it, it's like a cold or like a flu. But we have to make sure other people don't get it. And we want to make sure our family doesn't get it because we don't want it to spread to other people where it would be worse. That's where then you start to introduce all those practices of washing your hands to singing happy birthday
Oh,
twice.
that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so it's happy birthday twice. And the way you cough and sneeze into the inside of your elbow, those types of things. And you say, okay, by doing these sorts of things, we're going to try to stop that sickness from spreading to other people.
So, for example, one of my friends who reached out when she heard that this program was going on, she has about a 4.5, 5 year old. And so she is noticing different changes in her temperament, obviously attributed to the stress, one of which is she is starting to sleepwalk. What could she do within the parameters of what she has available to her to help ease that level of stress on that child, or something similar, some difference of, you know, something like that, if that were going on in a household? What would you recommend?
Okay, so there are some things that you can do. First of all, talk with your child, acknowledge what they're feeling. So in that sort of case, you could see, you know, there's been problems when you've been trying to sleep. How do you feel? Whatever your child is capable of responding,
Mhm.
okay? The important thing is to also be proactive, trying to establish routine, you know, a regular bedtime, a regular wake up time. I know it's hard. We're all trying to adjust to this, but those types of things are important. Making sure the child gets exercise, a good diet, and explaining to the child that that does help you keep healthy, right?
Mhm.
Be a role model. Children also are responding to our verbal and nonverbal cues. When you talk about the COVID-19, what you want to do is stay calm and reassuring. If you as the parent are talking to your child and your anxiety is elevated, your child is going to feed off of that. And even if your voice is calm, but they see that you're tense and that type of thing, it's going to feed off. Limit the news.
Just
Limit the
have it
news.
in the background. It's some,
You
yeah.
right. I know we want our information, and I understand that. A little bit here and there, okay, but to have it on that much is not going to be
And
helpful.
also, we do live in an age
Over
where you can get
talking,
your information from a lot of different sources. It doesn't necessarily need to be the TV just blasting in the living room with everybody running around.
right, and with older children that are showing anxiety, making sure your child goes to the appropriate websites that give better information, like the CDC and those types of things, and explaining to your children that not everything you're reading and that type of thing is going to be true and factual.
Co-parenting, because I know co-parenting
Right.
again is difficult. I've never been married, so I've never been divorced. However, a lot of people I love have been, so I can see how challenging that is as well under normal circumstances. I mean, you might have two
Right.
very different parenting styles, but one thing I'm hearing a lot of is that one parent takes, you know, this social distancing and being in quarantine very seriously, not being allowed to go here and there, not leaving the house, not playing with other kids, and the other one is very lax, and then that one makes the other one feel crazy, and then the other one can't control this one. How is, what are some tips in terms of like navigating that?
First of all, of course, the communication is going to be key. And in this type of situation, you need to go more towards over communication.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Always, but always remembering that it's for the best interest of the child. Okay. Um, be be flexible. be flexible. If you have to sit there and kind of come up with a game plan and negotiate what would be okay and what would not be okay, then you do that because you've communicated it ahead of time. Okay? The other thing is, if it gets to the point that you feel like there's blatant disregard of the social distancing and your child's being exposed or that, you need to then maybe consult with your family attorney and decide what you need to do at that juncture.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people I know that have fallen into that where maybe one parent is more lax about that. They have just kind of defaulted to the court order. So
Okay.
a lot of people have done that as well. Also, think twice, maybe even 3 times before you send an angry text or say something, because I want parents to remember that what happens now will also likely affect you later in terms of any custody arrangements or that kind of thing. And being willing to be flexible and understanding, let's say some people's ex-spouses have been laid off.
Oh, yeah.
Being more flexible, allowing for more FaceTime and that type of connection. A lot of children realize that older people are maybe more susceptible. Allowing them, having them FaceTime with grandparents maybe will help ease some of that anxiety.
Just right now, education in homes, it's not, I know I called it homeschooling when we were talking, and you're like, you can't call it homeschooling because homeschooling is a different ballgame. This is very difficult. Pointers you can give to parents that are struggling with this issue, because my understanding is it is going to be this way for the remainder of this school year. And that is, for most states, that's what is going to be.
So again, routines are helpful. Second, be forgiving of yourself. Children are extremely resilient. Is there maybe going to be some falling behind? Probably, but kids are resilient and they can catch up.
Mm-hmm.
I think parents, especially trying to work from home and do this, can be very difficult. It's distance learning. It's not like a homeschool program. And just having a set kind of schedule will help maybe ease that flow a little bit. For the special needs, that is very difficult. They have to contact their districts. You should be able to get services via telehealth. But that's for more of the district. But it is very complicated. A lot of families are going without services and support. So that is a big area that is to continue to be monitored.
And what are your recommendations for those families? I mean, should they reach out to private professionals who can help them, psychologists who can help them? Should they try to stick through whatever they had been doing and getting the assistance through the state that they had been getting before? Would you have any recommendations in that regard?
If families are feeling that their child is not getting the services that they should be receiving at this point, then I would recommend that they contact an advocate. And they can contact me and I can give some referrals for advocates if they need that.
And can you, before you leave us, just let us know I know you signed on through your work, not because we would want to send people to your work's Instagram page, so that your contact information is there in case they need any guidance. And thank you again for volunteering your time and volunteering to be able to guide people, because I do think that with everything we're all going through, it's so vital for us each to do our part for the community, and just, chip in where we can and help each other where we can and accept help where you need it. And I think that's something that's so important. So Thank you, my
Exactly.
dear, for your time, and thank you.
Thank
And can you tell us
you.
the ages of your children so that everyone listening knows you're pretty much dealing with it all across the spectrum?
Exactly. 14-year-old son, 11-year-old daughter, and 4-year-old daughter.
Oh my goodness,
So,
I love
right.
them all, and send them my love. And
Yeah,
thank you so much
I
for taking
will.
time away. And your Instagram handle that you would like them to see, or your name on Instagram that people can come and follow and ask you questions or message you with questions.
It's DCS therapy. It's how
Perfect.
I signed on. Thank
Okay, thank
you.
you so much.